Alright, in this video, I will be showing my workflow and whatever else goes into a painting that I do for a client. As you can see here right away that I already have a pose sketched out, and this was done so that for my client to approve before I start working on anything more serious. The brief was very simple. The client wanted a guy with a gun and a helmet cupped on his arm, in his arm. So it wasn't too complicated. This wasn't too long. And he also provided me with references. With almost any illustration you're gonna do, you're gonna need good references. Whether it's written or ideally image references, you're gonna need it. You know, maybe you're one of the few people out there who can sketch and draw things out of pure imagination, but even people like Kim Jung-gi and other amazing artists, they use references. Believe that. Now, I'm starting to work on a loose sketch right away. I made a mistake here of trying to sketch in his helmet, but then I realized that he already has a helmet cupped in his arm, so yeah. Brain farts, it happens. It's important you to try and take it nice and slow early on. Get a nice, loose, messy brush. I'm using a chalk brush. I think it's a default chalk brush that pretty much every photo editing software, painting program out there has. You know, Corel Painter, Clip Studio Paint, Photoshop. They all have this like square, chalky brush. I don't remember downloading this or buying anywhere. Anyway, it's important to try and keep it loose. You know, it's like a warm-up. You're trying to ease yourself into this illustration, to this image. You know, because you start from a blank canvas, and it can be very intimidating, as silly as it sounds. So keep it nice and loose. Keep a nice flow. You know, keep the momentum up. There's no real need to try and start getting very delicate and precise early on. Just take it easy. You know, go with the flow. Yeah, I also realized that my client did not provide me the boots in the beginning. All the images didn't have boots, but he wanted a full character illustration, so that will be something I have to do later. You know, ask the client to give me samples of the boots and stuff like that. But for now, we have other things to focus on. It's not the end of the world. We can just, yeah, get other things done. There's some anatomical problems here, but again, it's no big deal. We can always just adjust it using a lasso tool or resketching it, whatever. It's no big deal. Yeah, I start manipulating the image here and there. Even if you don't do it, you can always just undo it. I like doing it because it kind of gives me a slightly fresh look. And maybe sometimes I feel like the certain parts don't feel right. And I also adjusted the size of his head. I felt like the character didn't look as big and imposing as the references. Like in the references, he's a huge guy, but what I'm drawing here previously, it didn't look very big. It looked like a average guy. So instead of making this entire body bigger, you can always just make his head their head slightly smaller to make them look bigger. This is often a trick done by a lot of comic artists and all superhero stuff. They tend to try and make the head smaller to make them look bigger. Now that I'm done with the loose sketch, I'll call that a loose sketch. I drop the opacity, or you can put a white layer on top and lower its opacity, whatever you want to do. Then start drawing in a cleaner version of that sketch to facilitate an easier time for painting later on. I don't normally always do a line work like this, but the armor that I have to do here has very big contrast, has very big shapes, has a lot of large edges, right? Hard edges. So some line work here would do wonders, would go pretty far into the painting. You know, if you were tasked with painting a zebra or something, I don't think you would really have to make a very nice line art and draw out every single stripe. It's probably easier and better to just paint them in. Here we got a lot of nice square or deformed squares, shapes everywhere. So yeah, line art is perfect. And you can see here I dragged in the head, copy the reference, and just put the head there. You know, to speed it up. There's no shame in doing that, I think. Head here is not perfect either. He's sure has a very small, deformed forehead, but we can, you know, just push and pull, manipulate it, redraw, keep going. I'm having trouble with the hand here. Ideally, I should probably use a reference here and actually draw it out, but yeah. To find reference for this, you probably have to search out something like guy holding helmet or something like that. Or you can take a picture of yourself doing the action you have for a character. That's what a lot of artists in Riot do for their illustrations. They pose their images with each other first, then they use it as a starting point. You can use 3D, DAZ. Yeah. Now that I think at this point I'm supposed to get a reference image from my client for the boots. But again, it's no big deal. Fortunately, it's just the boots. You can kind of get away with making the boots slightly less detailed compared to like the head and chest, because people tend to focus more on the head. Like people's faces are very recognizable, so people tend to draw their. Usually, your attention is drawn to faces. So all I'm doing here is just setting up for a block in. I'll block it in. Once I'm satisfied with the line work, I'll start blocking in a medium gray, maybe dark gray, before I start coloring. Here I'm just making sure he's got this little neck protection thing, which is not all that practical. I'm not sure how that really fits. You can even see there in the reference image his chin is rubbing or touching against that metal bit or plastic bit. It can't be very comfortable. Anyway, I start blocking in grays now. It's a bit light, but we can adjust it to be darker. And preparing this for painting. So that'll be in the next video. For now, I hope this gives a little insight on how I do things.